Going to get some cleaners out and take care of all the old lubricant here, clean up all the parts. Just going to get some IPA out and just soak everything down really well. It's going to be kind of a long video, so I'll try to fast forward through as much as I can. Just soaking everything really well here. I'm not cleaning anything, just getting liquid on it. This is not bad. Sometimes they can have all kinds of things around and it's not very pleasant, but this deck's pretty clean. Trying to get to all the places I can. You chem wipe on stuff. Now that idler pulley there up on top in the middle, I'll deal with that separately. It can be done without removing the transport, and so I just kind of wanted to show how easy that is to take care of, even with it in the deck. Now it looks pretty good. Now let's deal with all the parts. This is probably the dirtiest piece on the whole assembly. Again, it's just very clean. I've seen them much, much worse than this. What I do here is I take a toothpick and just kind of shave it down. It's too big to go into the bore. I just shave it down and run it through there. And see, there's just nothing on it. It's clean. There's no lubricant either, which is not a good thing, but at least it's not filled with garbage and junk that caused it to wear. Nope, same thing here. Now this one does have a little bit of moly on the back side of the hub there. Get that off. And then this also has a felt washer. And there needs to be a little resistance on that felt, on that washer. Sometimes they'll just freewheel. It'll be worn out. It's repairable, replaceable. Again, bore's clean. There, I can feel resistance on that, so I don't need to deal with it. So a little felt right in between the gear and the reel table. That feels good to me. So I want to clean this gear off here. I'm using just a nylon cleaning brush. Again, I'm not seeing anything on there that causes me concern. This maybe wasn't a good deck to make a video with because it's actually in pretty good condition. This is the dirtiest part, and that's what I would expect. I'll probably go through that 2-3 times here. All right, let's get those ball bearings too while we're here. Off camera there. There we go. And that little teeny one right there. There's the spring hold down. I want this to be very clean also. And see, there's what's in there is insignificant. I don't even count that as being any sort of lubricant. Just quickly go through that. Not seeing anything. There's a little tiny spot of rust on there. Corrosion breaking through the CAD plating. Okay, the brakes, what I'll do here is I'll clean these up, and then I'll rotate the actual brake itself 180 degrees to get away from, or to get a fresh section on there. And yes, I know my hands are in rough shape, but the alcohol dries them out on the surface, but it's really not that bad. It's much better than most of the other cleaners that I deal with. All right, so I'll just take that there and I'll just rotate that rubber brake and give it a brand new section. And it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's still got good grip to it. Okay, and there's the wear you can see on that right there. That's what the wear looks like. And that's all those years of use, so that's not too bad. Yep, rotate that one. Those are good. I'm happy with those. Little gear for the counter. Now I'll clean all this up, and then I'll put a little spot of cyano on that, hold that magnet on the hub. Using the stick of the Q-tip there just to clean out the axle. Little tiny bit of stuff in there, very, very minor. There it is, just a little tiny half a drop. Clean the excess off. All right, let's take a look at this pinch roller. What happened on this, you'll see in just a second here, is the belt loosened up, the control belt loosened up as it was taking the head stack up into place, and so the pinch roller sat there up against the capstan for enough time to put a little dent in it, and that happens a lot. It'll break right there, or it will stretch out and it will get it up that far and then it'll stop. And so we'll have to deal with that. Let's get all those little washers and spring washers and everything else that gets lost. I'm going to have a look at the, I'm trying to show the heads, but it's not working out in the in the loop there. I thought the camera could see it, but it just can't. There's too many reflections. But I'm putting some polyester tape on the heads to protect them because the guides need to be cleaned up a little bit. And what I'll use here is a piece of 1500 or 2000 grit sandpaper on a little dowel that I've just shaped to be able to get in there nicely and not do any damage. And I'm feeling now with my probe, I'm feeling on the inside of that guide, that tape guide, and I'm feeling a little bit of roughness. And I saw it in the loop a little bit of wear where the tape was rubbing on it. So that tells me that the head was riding a little bit too high, and I confirmed that later. So I just want to clean that up. I'm probably not taking 1,000th off of there, but the other thing I like to do too is just round those. Those are just stamped guides, and I'll round them off, polish them up, and then really work hard at, I lost a little bit of video there, but I really work hard at getting that tape centered naturally in there. So that's all that is. That's 2000 grit, I think, or 1500 grit on that pegwood, and just it's shaped so I can get into those and round them off. See, I'm really not spending too much time on the flat. I'm going in the corners and making a nice little radius in those corners. I'm on this for a little while. It takes some time. I'll do the erase head guide on that. This one did not have any inside wear, and what it was that was properly positioned, and the head, the record and playback head guide was running a little bit high. And I'll correct that when we get to that point. Let's have another look. Yes, I'm probably taking off maybe 1,000th. It takes a lot of work to get any metal off with that fine a grit. Just going to use a little bit of jeweler's rouge just on the, whoops, forgot to tighten up my collet. So just on the inside corners. I can't really get a very good, I can't get in on this to show what they look like, but they ended up looking really nice and polished and shiny and smooth. That's all I'm doing there is just hitting those inside corners. Do the race head. Again, I'm trying to show it, but it's not going to happen. But I like it. I like the looks of it. Let's clean all that up while I'm in here. You can see on the back there where those ball bearings ride. Got a little bit of stuff in here. Really not bad. There we go. About the only thing I use Q-tips for. All right, that looks really good. Now let's take a look at these leads on the heads. They look good, shiny. Don't see any problems there. Record head looks good. I mean the erase head. This is what I use to clean the heads and polish them. And that's the compound on there. Very fine finishing compound. And this is going to take a while, so I'm going to speed through this about as fast as I can. I'm on this for a little while. This is not lapping, this is just doing a really fine cleaning. And that little bit of gray there on that swab, that means I'm not getting through the oxidation yet. I'm still on that oxidation layer. Now we're starting to get a little black on there, which is getting down into the head. And that's what I want. I want to get all the grime off of there. Now, I did some tests with this deck, and I also looked down into the head gaps, and they look good, and it has a good frequency response when I started. So I'm doing a cleaning here, and it'll be a good one. There was a material that a friend told me about a long time ago that's I can't remember the name of it, but it is supposed to really be a good coating for once you've done a thorough cleaning on your heads. And I've got to try to find what that is because I'd like to use it again. It's supposed to be, it makes the tape glide over the heads more easily. And I really wish I could remember what that was. So I gave it a little inspection there with the loop, and I feel like I need to do a little bit more work on it. And that's what I want to see, is that black on the swab. I'll do this record head too. I'm sorry, I mean the erase head. I don't know why I keep saying that. Of course, these are different materials, generally much harder. Really no visible wear of any type on that. It's amazing how fast that oxide layer will build up after I've cleaned them. And there's just kind of my parts tray, and with everything cleaned up. All right, well, let's deal with this pinch roller. I'm going to knock that axle out of there. There's a larger side and a smaller side, and you can kind of tell which one is which. It looks really good other than that dimple in it. We got to get that out of there. I have the ability here to precision grind these. And I have shaped a wheel to the correct radius for this, and I found the correct radius by buying a brand new pinch roller for this deck, or this series of decks. And so I chalk it up here, and all I'm doing is just removing that chalk thickness and getting down and refreshing that rubber. This works really, really well. Yeah, that's all I'm doing, and you can see where the dimple is on that, and I'm just going until I get that dimple out all the way, and there it is. You can't sand around. I've seen people try to sand these. You can't do it. The best thing other than precision grinding it is soap and water and a vegetable brush. They work great. And then here it is on the optical comparator compared to the brand new one. I don't remember which is which actually, but it is the correct radius. And it needs that radius. I did some experiments with making wheels flat, and it doesn't work. I guess it can on some, but on this particular deck, it needs that radius. Okay, that looks good. I'll lubricate it. So what I was saying is you can't sand around. It's not possible. If you have to use a Scotch-Brite or something like that and roll it around there, that might work, but really soap and water and a scrub brush is what will get that rubber back to where it needs to be. There's some products called Rubber Renew, and they work for a while. All right, let's get that erase head back on. Okay, that all looks good. Let's start the reassembly. Now I had sadly lost this footage, or it filled up the card and I didn't know it. I got started here and I got quite a bit put back together before I realized the card was filled up. So I'm just lubricating the axles, tiny bit on the inside of the hubs, or the inside of the bores. And I'm using the Krytox on all of this. And really, this should be a lifetime lubrication now at this point. And that's where I lost my footage. And so I got to this point, but I'm going to take that head stack back off and show how the bearings ride on the back. But I won't take the rest of it off. It's pretty self-explanatory. And there's those 3 ball bearings there that it rides on. And I'm going to put a little bit more lubricant right there. I already had this put together, but I wanted to show how that how those ride in the back there, and why it's important to get to them and clean them up and relubricate them. So now this is the spring hold down, and that puts pressure down on that head stack. With that other little tiny ball bearing. And so that rides right in that little wear mark right behind the heads. And I want to make sure to get some lubricant on that. And it goes right down inside the little slot in the post that's underneath the head. And it's not hard to get to. It has to be held down while the E-clip is inserted. And then that's what puts pressure on that and allows it to ride up and down. Clean a little bit of extra off of there. It feels good. It doesn't rock. I had a little bit of lubricant right there I want to get off. Put a little spring back on. Now the little head cover. It's just a whisper of lubricant. Now we'll get our pinch roller back on. And that spring gets adjusted to set the tension on the capstan with that pinch roller. I'll find a new E-clip. These are metric. or metric. That looks good. Oh, nope, that's not the right size. There we go. All right, let's check for proper operation on everything. The brakes are working right, coming off correctly. Everything's nice and smooth, quiet. There's how those work. I think I can set that carrier back down now. Do a little bit of polishing in here first. This is a non-wax polish. They call it Oz polish. I've used it a long time. It doesn't attract dust. Might as well just do all this while I'm here. Make it look nice, and I just want to get a little bit of oil on all those pivot points. Again, the Nye oil, what I'm using here. A couple on the sides. Now that ejector button right there, I'm checking the moly lube that's on that, and that's good. I'm happy with that. There's no reason to change that. Put just a little bit right there where the guide goes. And I put a little drop of oil on that bushing also. Put our little spring clip back on there. A little bit of lubricant, and that dampener can also be adjusted here if it needs to be. This one's fine. There's a screw right on the back of it. You just barely see it coming out of the back of the chassis. There it is. That all works great. Put a little bit of lube on the clasp. Alrighty, everything's back where it needs to be. Now we want to check the position of those guides and the head, and I'm not going to be able to show this on video, but I have some stills at the end of how it looks. This is an M300 gauge. It's shop made. I used ground flat stock, the correct thickness, and I made this gauge out of copper, and it's very accurately made. And it just goes in there and checks the distance, they call it the height, of the heads and the squareness of the heads to the deck. And you can also check the pinch rollers with it. And in this case, I know that head was a little bit high, and so I'm correcting that. And you do that with it in its position, of course. And that's what it looks like when it's in position. You want that tape to be going through there without touching anything, ideally, but there are tolerances and they have to be allowed for.